You bet. I tell you what, growing up with Dad, as good as he was on stage, he was even better off stage.
Oh,
So just amazingly blessed. Everything that he did, it was so intentional. He really strived to have a personal relationship with each of us, myself and my sisters. I'm the youngest by almost 10 years, so it was almost like I grew up as an only
solo,
child.
yeah.
I know. But Dad and I love to play golf, and he always took that extra moment.
Mm.
And I remember distinctly, he would come to me every now and then, and he would apologize for something. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was like nothing, right? But he was just
Right.
so wanting to have that relationship as good as it could be. And so now when I speak and travel, it's like I run into friends and family wherever I go because they know Dad, right? And so
So
we've got that
special.
we've got that in common. So it's really,
What
really
was
good.
his childhood similar with his own dad or mom?
I would say not at all.
Wow.
His dad died when he was 5 years old.
Wow.
He was the 10th of 12 kids. He ended up starting work when he was 6 years old,
Holy
selling
moly.
selling peanuts on the corner. So in Yazoo City, Mississippi,
I don't
uh,
even know where that is.
it's about 45 minutes outside of Jackson,
Okay.
Mississippi.
Yep.
Yeah,
Middle of nowhere.
this is the middle of the Great Depression.
Depression.
So
Yeah.
here he is in one of the poorest states and one of the poorest
Wow.
areas. Uh, raised by a single mom, right, a
Yeah.
widow, and of course, this family loved him, but everybody had stuff to do, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, if you wanted to eat, you had to work.
Yeah.
So that's what he did. So very
Wow.
loving family, but not at all the same circumstance.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, along the way, at what point was there this, like, character development when you're working at Six is clearly present. You're
Yeah.
always learning. We're all always learning, no matter the scenarios that we're placed in. But at what point did he shift into being who we now know as Zig Ziglar? And you obviously weren't a part of that picture at that point yet.
No, so it started. He goes to the Navy, gets out, marries mom, gets his first job selling door to door, and for 2.5 years he doesn't sell anything. Well, he does. He sells his car. He sells his furniture.
Oh,
Right. I mean,
man.
just that.
Yeah.
And he goes to an event, a company event, and his hero is there, PC Merrill, who he looked up to, who was kind of like a figurehead. And PC Merrill came to Dad, put his hands on his shoulders, and said, "Zig, in all my life, I've never seen such a waste."
Hmm.
But so the but cancels that whole thing out
Yep. Yep.
and says, "But if you believed in yourself and went to work on a regular schedule, you could be a champion." And so that was the day he decided to figure out what does it mean to believe in himself. And that was the day he made the commitment he was knocking on doors at 9 a.m. every day after that, because that's the work he was in.
Right.
And, and then that year he finished number 2 out of 7,000 people. And the previous 2.5 years, he was never in the top 5,000.
Wow.
So that was like the turning point. But what he decided to do was really study and learn what it means to believe in yourself and self-image and all those different things. And that was the beginning. And then, of course, when you have that level of success, everybody wants you to come and speak and train
Yeah.
and teach their people. And so that's how it grew.
So wild. So at what point did you start taking interest in what he was actually doing rather than him just being dad?
Yeah. Um, I really didn't understand everything that he did. But I do a little bit. I went to college and my goal was to be a professional golfer. So
Cool.
when I got out of college, I went to work at the company, Dad's company, to pay for my golf habit. And I was working in the warehouse and then I moved into sales. And then I got to go and travel with him a little bit. And I was one of those guys selling the product at the back of the
At the
room.
table. Yeah, sure.
back then it was books and cassette tapes and
Yeah,
VHS.
yeah.
And we were at an event. It was an Amway event. There was about
Yep.
30,000 people there.
Huge.
And this is the day I figured out what we did. Dad was the surprise guest. So they had this huge basketball arena, seats on the floor, the whole 9 yards. And at dinner, they emptied the place at 5 o'clock. So everybody had to leave. They had
Yeah.
2 hours to eat. And then we set up in the back of the wall of the arena at 5 after everybody had left. And then we had to put tablecloths over all the product because Dad was a surprise speaker. Well, when they opened the doors at 7, the crowd comes rushing in, and the first guy looks over and he sees the product table, and he comes straight to me and he goes, "Is Zig Ziglar going to be here?" And one of the books had been uncovered, and so he saw Dad's picture, and so I went shh like that and said, "Don't say anything." And I said, "Yeah, he's going to be here, but don't tell anybody. It's a secret, surprise." And he said, "Well, is he going to autograph?" I said, "Yeah, he's going to autograph." And he said, "Well, where's that going to be?" And I pointed over to another table. And he says, "Is that the line?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I'm going to go stand in line." And I go, "Well, at 7 o'clock, he's scheduled to start speaking at midnight, and it's Amway, so it'll be at least an hour late.
Wow.
So why don't you go sit down, and then at 11:30, come get in the line that nobody knows exists?" And he goes, "No, I'll just stand in line now." And so he goes and gets in line, and the line that nobody knows exists. And for an hour and a half, I'll watch him. And then finally I go over and I go, "Okay, what's your story?" And his story was he'd come from Central America to find a better life. He moved in with his brother in Chicago. And after about 6 weeks, he said to his brother, if I'm going to make my dream come true in America, I have to learn English. How do I learn English? And he said, "My brother gave me this book." And he held up "See at the top." And he said, "Translate this from English to Spanish and then Spanish back to English using your dictionary. And you'll learn English and it will change your life."
Oh,
And then
wow.
this guy starts crying right there in line. And he says, "I was an alcoholic. I was about to get divorced. This saved my marriage. I'm sober. I'm living the dream. I'm building this business. I work full time over here doing this." And that's when I really realized the business that we were in. So I was, like 25, 26 when
Wow.
when it really sunk in that
Yeah.
we're not in the book and tape business. We're in the life changing business. So.
Wow.